Welcome to the third installment of the baked salmon recipe review videos. This is an easy baked Cajun salmon recipe and it's on a website called Domestic D. So I'm actually recording this post recipe review. Let's just go over the ingredients. It's a very simple recipe. It's really just a salmon and Cajun seasoning and a bunch of other spices mixed together in melted butter. And you also have the option of adding parsley and lemon wedges for garnish. So the instructions is also very simple. All you have to do is bake the salmon in 425 degrees. Before you bake it, you want to pat the salmon dry. You want to mix the butter and seasonings. And you also want to season the salmon on both sides and try to just put the entire salmon on a baking sheet or a large cast iron skillet if you could fit it. I couldn't, so I had to cut it. Then you just bake 15 to 20 minutes, and when it's done, you can serve it with lemon or garnish with parsley. Now, you know what's really tro is, so there's a photo right here of the Cajun sauce mix, right? Once you mix it with butter. That's not how my sauce looked like, so you can see my sauce or seasoning mix afterwards and in the video. Yeah, it's make a comparison. Anyways, hope you enjoyed the video.
So these are the ingredients for the recipe. There's no side dish or side veggies or anything else going in the oven with the salmon, so it's really just gonna be the salmon and the Cajun spice mix. In that little bowl, I have melted butter, and this salmon is 2.4 pounds. So the recipe was for I think 1.5 pound salmon, which means, more or less, we're going to use a little bit less than a teaspoon of each of the spices and like about maybe 1.5 tablespoons of the Cajun for the spice mix. At the very end, we're going to top it off with parsley. And since I don't have any lemon wedges on me, I'll be using lemon juice. More or less get the same taste. That way I can judge the entire recipe since lemon wedges were an optional piece. So there's not really much to this recipe, honestly. Maybe I guess I can record me cutting this up. So the recipe told you to just bake it whole, but this piece of fish is way too big, so I'm gonna have to cut it into slices. What I do is this like tail it. Well, the first thing I do is I pat it dry because you don't want any extra moisture as that affects the taste of the fish significantly, even if you're putting it in the oven. So pat it dry as much as possible, which I did. I also pat the backside, that's important too.
The audio got scuffed here, but I was explaining how I cut the salmon with a wide cut at the tail and more narrow cuts near the belly so that I could get an even distribution to fit in my baking pan. I recommend using a decently sharp knife or a knife with ridges because slicing through the skin can be a real pain in the ass if you're using a dull knife and have to saw your way through.
Here's the spice mixture. I must say, this thing is very heavy on the spice. Like, there's a lot of spice to butter ratio. It's set to spice both sides, so I did spice the back. Another thing that the recipe did not do was recommend to spray down the bottom of the pan with some cooking spray. I think you should. I know there's butter, and that's should make it so that your fish doesn't like stick right completely to the bottom, the aluminum foil. But I don't think there's enough like actual butter that would prevent like it. Like I think it's gonna burn. So I think that adding some cooking spray is like a needed step. Um, so I used a little bit of cooking spray, as little as I could, because the instructions didn't mention it. So I'm gonna go ahead and spice the top. You can see like this thing is already solid. So yeah, it's really heavy on the spice. Like the butter is completely it's almost like a paste, right? Like it is. It's like a paste. So yeah, I'm just gonna spice up everything, and we already have the oven set at 425. So after I add spice completely on this, I'm gonna set in the oven. The instruction says 15 to 20 minutes at 420 degrees Fahrenheit. I think 425 is pretty high for salmon, so I'm gonna go 17 minutes instead of 18. And we'll see, how well done it comes out. I think it's pretty well cooked. Like the spices are bubbling. Everything is a deep, kind of a light shade of pink, right? So it looks pretty cooked after 17 minutes. Here's a close-up. All right. It's time for the taste test. Just trying to see if the, yeah, so you can see that the skin is not too burnt, which is a good thing. I think it's because I added that cooking spray. I don't really know why the recipe asked to salt the back of the skin. I'm assuming you're supposed to eat it, like eat the skin with the fish. So I am gonna do that just because if I season the back of the skin, right, like I'm gonna eat it. Otherwise, what was the point of seasoning it? So I'm gonna give it a taste right now with the skin.
I was really hopeful that the skin would be crispy and set off a Cajun flavor bomb in my mouth. But what was this? This skin sucked. I could still taste the scales and there was barely any flavor.
Alright, it's not that great, to be honest. I may add some parsley and some lemon, because these were the optional garnish. Like it's all right.
It was not alright, by the way.
On the good side of average, right?
Holy shit, I was running some solid D.
Let me go ahead and add this garnish and see if that makes it any better. Yeah, lemon makes this a lot, not a lot, but a bit better.
Alright, to be fair, I ate it again the next day and it tasted better for some reason.
Okay, I'm ready to pour this. So, in terms of cookability, the recipe was so easy to make. I have to give it a 10. The steps were super basic. It was only 5 steps, which really was mostly like 4. So it's really easy to make. Now, I think there may be some added steps that could have made this taste better as a whole. So in terms of taste, I'm actually only going to give it a 6 out of 10. And this is with the lemon and parsley. I seasoned the back of the skin, ate the skin. Didn't really taste that good. The salmon itself is pretty good. But the problem is, I think the spices is really just on the top and back. You taste a lot of flavor on the top, but then when you get into the middle, the flavor doesn't really penetrate through, right? Just I think because it's so spice heavy, like there's no like butter. It's like the butter didn't get into the salmon. So maybe for this type of recipe, maybe you needed to add like an extra step or two where you like cut the salmon maybe thinner, spice it more generously on the sides, so that there's more spice surface ratio covered on the salmon. Because the middle just tastes really plain. The spice did not penetrate through the middle, so you get this like kind of pretty spicy, pretty flavorful exterior. Inside is like super bland.
Remember, the recipe suggested to cook the salmon whole if you could fit it in the baking pan, so the spice to fish surface area ratio would have been even worse if I had followed their instructions.
It actually rates on average as an 8, right? Because it was so easy to cook. So I would say the recipe is an 8 on average.
You might be thinking, well, if it doesn't taste good, should that have a greater effect on the overall rating? And I'm definitely considering it now. Anyways, there's a chance that Cajun style is just not my jam, and anyone can follow this easy recipe, so maybe you'll make it and it tastes better for you. Once again, thank you for watching this recipe review series, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.